When I'm going to share our screen and Ms. Rhonda Davis will do our introduction.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. Again, implementing the ABE framework and CASAS goals to improve measurable skills gain. Again, I am Rhonda Davis, transition specialist at Harford Community College. Also in our presentation is Beth Johnson. She is our intake and assessment specialist. Say hi.
Good morning.
And Jessie Thompson, our instructional specialist.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, Jessie. We have a great deal of information to share with you this morning, and we ask that if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. We will address questions at the end of our presentation. So without further ado, Jessie, would you like to take it away?
Okay.
A subtitle for this presentation could be a student-focused approach to adult literacy. We understand that we are measured by our measurable skills gains, by our employability, and by our post-secondary education. But we really know as an organization that even though we're driven by the data, is really our connection with the students that helps to drive that data. Without our students, our data wouldn't exist. So we really could have this presentation be a student-focused approach to adult literacy. When we focus on the students, their success becomes our success.
Okay. So this is a brief overview of what we will be discussing today. We will start off with Beth Johnson, go to Rhonda, and finish with myself. And we will obviously make the PowerPoint and the spreadsheets and handouts we have available, and they will be posted when the recordings are posted.
So to start out, we are looking at this. We're going to begin looking at what we have done from the intake and assessment specialist point of view in order to increase our measurable skills gains, and in that becoming more student focused. If you read the quote above, to be successful is to be helpful, caring, and constructive, to make everything and everyone you touch a little bit better. Each one of us in every program is doing that. Each one of us is here because we care and want to make our students' lives better for their futures moving forward. One of the things that we have done is trying to really become more student focused, and in becoming that, we have seen our MSGs increase. One of the things that we have implemented is that our advisors actually contact the students before we ever even start the process of our program. Any student who is interested in our program is given an advisor, and the advisor reaches out to them. They answer questions that they may have ahead of time. They explain a brief overview of our program, and they start to try to make the students feel comfortable with the fact that they can be successful in getting their GED. This initial contact really allows our students to know that they have a support system as they are getting their GED. The other thing that we have developed is pre-orientation. Before COVID, we would conduct a 2-day intake and assessment process. On the first day, the students would come to campus. We would give a brief overview of our program. They would do the appraisal. Then the second day, they would come back. They would do the pre-test, and then we would advise them into classes. Because of COVID, we needed to have a smaller footprint on our campus. So we developed a pre-orientation. In this pre-orientation, we have had the students, we give an overview of the program. We tell them what are our expectations in the program? What do we expect from them as students? What is it going to take to persevere? What is it going to take to become successful in obtaining their GED? Many students come into just wanting a GED and not even understanding that the GED is comprised of 4 different tests. So we explain how the GED test even operates. How do they get their GED? We show them a continuum, how sometimes it's not just coming for one class and going and taking your GED. Sometimes it's semester over semester of learning the material and becoming better versed in each subject before you can take your GED. In this pre-orientation and allowing them to understand the process and understanding that HCC has responsibilities to the students as well. We show them what our teachers have office hours. We allow, have them understand that we give them a free computer program. So not only are they having the understanding of what it takes for them to be successful, but understanding that we're behind them and there's all of these tools available to allow them to be successful as well. Because they are more informed in the process before they ever even enter the program, they have a much better understanding of what it is going to take in order to be successful. Because of that understanding, I really believe that we have seen some measurable skills gains because they have a better understanding of the whole encompassing program that they're becoming involved in. And the last thing that we have done is that we have allowed the students to have more power in determining what their class schedule looks like. They are able to decide, even at the pre-orientation. I present the pre-orientation, and after everything's been presented, it really comes down to their decision. Is this a good time in their life for them to be getting their GED based on all of the information that they've been given? So that's the first decision that they're empowered with. They also are empowered with how many classes would they like to take? Are they going to take classes online or in person? And also, are they going to take classes in the evening or during the day? So giving the students that power, that ownership to their situation really allows them to have the power. And we know that knowledge is power. We also have increased our student contact. We have really tried to make sure that any barriers that might be in a student's life or could potentially be there that would prevent them from finishing their GED and being successful, the advisors, like I said, not only contact them ahead of time, but they also work with them during our intake and assessment as to any barriers that might be there for those students. Based on those barriers, then we try to set up their schedules based on those barriers, and we as a team become knowledgeable about those barriers so we can continually check on the students to see if those barriers are becoming a problem at any given time and what can we do to help the students through those barriers. I send out emails to all the students every 2 to 3 weeks to encourage them, to support them, and just to remind them of all of the support systems that are in place for them. The teachers are continually working with the students, whether that's before class and office hours or after class and office hours, throughout the class, working with the students, anything that might be coming up as a barrier for them. And we've also digitally made our attendance available so that everyone in our program has access to where our students are at in attendance, and we are able to connect with our students more regularly so that we can catch any problems that might be coming up before they become too much of a problem. The last thing that we've done in the intake and assessment process is we have instituted student conferences. Halfway through the semester, or a little over halfway through the semester, myself and our transition specialist, Rhonda, meet with each student. Beforehand, the student is given a participation rubric that the teacher fills out. The teacher addresses their class participation, their homework completion, if they've completed hours on the Aztec computer program that we give them, and any other thing that we should know as a team from the teacher. Based on that teacher input, We meet with the students, we discuss what the teacher's perspective is, we ask what the student's perspective is of their success so far in that semester, and what do we think moving forward would be the best options for the students. And of course, they have a voice in how they're moved forward in our program. This has really helped the students feel like they have a voice in the program, and it also has allowed them to have the accountability that we need. We know that if there's accountability, people rise to that accountability and to the requirements that are set before them. In those conferences, we also remind the students of office hours, of the Learning Center, and other resources that are available to them. In addition, myself and the transition specialist, Rhonda, are in constant contact about our students. So we as a team are really working to make sure that we have a pulse on where each one of our students is. And this also allows Rhonda to be able to transition our students more effectively.
So thinking about transition and how we approach the needs of our students, I looked at the concept of transitioning and it had to be reimagined. So I love this quote by William Bridges, which discusses transition. Change is that event, but transitions is that process that we go through in response to the change. So reimagining how we help our students, we had to think about not just moving them to the next step, but in, through, and out of our program is the reimagining process that we took advantage of so that we can holistically and provide that human resource approach to our students. So in reimagining our student transitions, there's an additional orientation, digital literacy, netiquette, learning strategies, and steps to success. To address the team's orientation, our platform that we use for our virtual classes are through Microsoft Teams. It's different than having a phone, a cell phone, a smartphone, than being able to navigate a computer. That's what we require. That's what we want for our students, to be able to sit behind a desktop, a laptop, or a tablet to facilitate or to go through our program and receive instruction. The digital literacy elements help us to better serve the students in the opportunity of using that chat box feature, also having instituted some credentialing processes for our students so that they can become more of a college student here at Harford Community College. We had in the beginning, when COVID first started, as we all were having students to log in under a personal email address. Well, we realized that that wasn't very productive, and parts of our students had part access to our Microsoft Teams platform. So we went to our IT department and lobbied to have them to receive a Harvard Community College credential, which allowed them greater access to the functions in Microsoft Teams, being able to share their screen, to share their homework, the chat box to communicate questions or ask to have develop the questions during the learning process, and the hand raising features. The elements of the digital literacy framework were the technical, civic, communicative, collaborative, computational thinking, and productivity, of which I'll talk about more of in the future slides. Netiquette, we all have to learn how to conduct ourselves while we're in the learning environment. And that's new for some people. It's different when the students are in a classroom face-to-face, and we do hold face-to-face classes, but reimagining how this would look like in the comforts of our own home, how to dress appropriately, how to manage the background noise while students are learning. Learning strategies are also a big key point of what we'll talk about, and those steps to success, because we want the students to rise to the occasion. So for our tools for success is one of the resources that we utilize for students that are in our program. Now, what is Tools for Success? It is a 4-week workshop that we host for 90 minutes. It is required if you're receiving any type of scholarship to pay for your class, or if we see that students are having POPs, that period of participation, there's something going on and we want to give them the strategies and tools necessary so that they can become successful. In that Tools for Success class, we discussed a syllabus. Not everyone knows what a syllabus is, and if they're looking to transition to post-secondary education, they need to know what that is. That gives them an outline on what they're about to accomplish for that semester, contact information for that instructor, and that additional rubric that they can see. This is what I'm going to be measured by, so that they can prepare themselves to learn. Yes, we learn every day, but it should be purposeful in their efforts. Vision statements. This is so critical in anything that you do. Without a vision, how are you going to know where you're going? Visions help us help you. If you can see where you're going, then we can help you get there. What we do is we provide a yellow sheet of paper and we ask the students to put their name on it. We actually have them sign it in cursive, that art of cursive writing. And then I provide that student or the group of students with a date. It's usually a year into the future. And then I'll ask them to illustrate, draw. We're not looking for the Picassos or the Van Goghs, but we're just looking for, what do you see if this is the date a year into the future? Most students are able to successfully draw some stick figures or something that they would wish they've always thought about having for themselves. Some might have a little bit more difficulty, so I can adjust that date. Maybe I'll go 6 months into the future. If this were 6 months from today's date, what do you want your life to look like? Illustration only, no words, just tell me what you see in your head. If they're able to do that, then we can really work with that student a little bit more closely. And it also helps with goal development. Without a goal, how are you going to ever get to your vision for the future? It also assists with writing those goals. Goals are very difficult. They're difficult for even the most astute person. So we use the SMART goal method to help students develop their goals. And then it also helps us to discover what strategies for success they need. And we ask them at the end of the 4-week time period to develop a collaborative project with their peers. This is a way to backdoor into collaboration in the classroom, community learning within the classroom with their peers, and accountability. Since I've been doing this workshop, I've seen where students develop text message group chats after the workshop is ended, if they're struggling in math concepts or they're working on a project in class, where they work together as a group. And if someone's missing from class, they'll text you and say, hey, how come you're not in class? So the collaboration of this workshop is also a way for me to evaluate myself and the success of the workshop and things that I need to improve upon to help students. The 2 books that you see here are the 2 texts that I use for this program: On Course by Skip Downing and Teach Yourself How to Learn. It's the On Course book is phenomenal. It gives tips and strategies that students can utilize in navigating the learning process and teaching yourself how to learn. It's a very light read for our students to be able to utilize. And I always approach it by saying, whatever you learn it well enough to teach it to somebody else and they pass the class. So in our vision statements, we invite students to take it one step further. And there's a method to doing this. This is an example of Rachel's vision for the future. In that process, we'll say, okay, now that you've done the vision paper with the little illustration that you created, how about taking it to the next level and do a vision board? Why do we do a vision board? Well, it's something for the students to build upon. If they're excited and can see their future, then they should be able to take it to the next level. And then from the program's perspective, we look at taking that vision board and so that they can see it before them while they're learning. So what we'll ask them to also do as they create the vision board, we ask them to create what's known as their study space. What I'll ask the students before I say, how is your vertical? Now for our athletes, if we have any athletes joining us this morning, your vertical is your vertical jump when you play basketball. But vertical is a posture and how we learn. It should be up and down, not horizontal. Horizontal is I'm in the bed, sleep. You can't do that if you were in a face-to-face class. I mean, your head might be down on a desk, but what actually are you learning? If you're vertical, then you're upright, your flow of information is ready to receive information, and we ask our students to create a study space in their dwelling. It could be at the kitchen table, it could be in their room, it could be anywhere where they feel comfortable, where they can put that vision board before them. I'm showing you Brianna's study space because she not only did a vision board, but I'm trying to figure out where she found that goals sign. She put that also in her vision space and her technology to be able to be ready to learn. So I'm proud of the two of those for creating that space. And there's a calendar there that we also address students for in the Tools for Success workshop so that we could get to those strategies for success. So within that learning process, one of the things that we talk about, time study. Notice at the bottom corner of the screen, there's a blurred example. I'm sorry, it's not the best copy, but I have students do a time study. I'll ask them to choose one day out of their week, only their busiest day out of the week, and from the time they wake up to the time that they go to sleep, tell me what you do in the course of a day. And usually when I get that back on the first round, because we go through that process a couple of times, they'll say, oh, I can wake up, I woke up, I showered, I got something to eat, I watched TV, and then I took care of my kids, and then I went to sleep. So as I looked at that, I was like, okay, we have some gaps that we need to talk about. Okay, so what time did you take your children to school? How far did you have to travel to take your kids to school if you have children? If you work, where's the work schedule in here? You're saying that you eat. How do you plan your meals? When do you grocery shop? These are things that you need to think about when you're taking one of the classes. So what our method is, you have to quantify this process of taking a class in a GED preparation program. That has to be built into your schedule in order for you to be successful as a student. So I give that time study back to the student and tell them, let's build it. If you have kids, do they have to go to the doctors? How often do they have to go to the doctors? When do you meet with their teachers? When do you help them with their homework? Build all of that into your schedule so that you can see, oh, out of the week, I have to have time to go to class. Our classes are twice a week. And then I tell them again, let's quantify the classes. You're going to be doing high school. If you're at GED level in our program, you're going to be doing 4 years of high school over the course of 9 weeks. That's accelerated learning. So with that in mind, acceleration of learning says that I have to have some study strategies. I need to learn how to take notes if I don't. The Cornell note-taking strategy, transferring that so that I can study and putting that into outline format. Or maybe I don't think in a linear format, I might have to think and do it in a bubble mind map strategy. And also reading strategy. Who opens up a textbook and says, I'm going to read from page 1 to page 300? No, if it's your textbook, you wrote it, you bought it, you paid for it, write notes in the margins, put stickies, go to the dollar store and buy those stickies in multiple colors so that you can have one yellow color for strategies or for vocabulary, the other colors for bolded headings. However, whatever works best for them so that they can have the tools and strategies and tips so that they can be successful and make better use of their time while in their program. So this allows us to be able to transition students. So when we transition students, we transition them from the time that they enter through the program and out. Utilizing that thought of transitioning is the help of our agency partners, which is our Susquehanna Workforce Network, to come in and have discussions about resume writing, interview prep skills, Pearson VUE to prepare students to come in for the GED exam so that they know that they need a Maryland High School diploma, what they should expect when they come in to take and sit for the exam. My College Success Network is the mirror of what we do on the credit side of our program at Harford Community College. They provide a presentation to all of our students in our program during student conferences, and there's a charge, not a cost, but okay, now that I've presented to you, here's the next step. We're inviting you to take a tour of the campus, or we're inviting you to participate in our programming event that's coming up within that week so that the students can learn to build relationships, because we want to build trust and relationships so that they feel comfortable making that transition. And then workforce development, having students shadow classes to discern, do I really want to drive a forklift, or do I want to take a credit class? Or perhaps I want to get involved in our leading edge training center and do commercial truck driving through our simulated program that we just developed here at our college. So Transitioning Students Reimagined is a more hands-on, realistic, and human resource approach in transitioning our students.
So how did we implement the Adult Basic Education Framework? After this was introduced, and then we met with our instructional specialists. We do have all instructors and our assistants watch the meeting to introduce it. They are given that 217-page document, and they're a little overwhelmed. We're like, that's fine. So what we did is we created a guide to focus on specific pages of the framework that matches their level that they're currently teaching. So it's not so overwhelming all at once. If you are teaching Adult Basic Education 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6, these are the specific pages to focus on to go with the ABE skills by the NRS levels and the CASAS goals. So when the instructors get that, this is a little bit more manageable bite-sized chunks of the framework. And then of course, they have the flexibility when they look at those lesson plans, they can go down a level if needed and up a level, or pull elements like, oh, I could use this in my class, but I may have to adapt or adjust slightly. And our instructors have been doing that. So for our ABE 2 and ABE 3 levels, we completely redesigned the curriculum. We have many rising English as a second language students. And we also have in our ABE 2 many students with developmental disabilities. So we restructured the curriculum to match everything in the ABE framework and CASAS goals, but put it over an 18-week period to give them a really good base of instruction. Same thing with ABE 2 reading and writing. As most of my fellow language arts instructors know that teaching the maps, charts, and graphs, it's a struggle. The struggle is real. So we do try to emphasize and focus on different styles of that with the ABE 3 reading and writing. Now, we used to combine our ABE 3 and 4 classes when they were test, we would combine them together, and that's where we did a full split. So now we have a separate Adult Basic Education 3 math and reading and ABE 4 math and reading class. For the ABE 3 class, that's where some heavy fraction focus is taking place. Yes, it's introduced in the ABE 2, but according to the ABE framework, mastery is not needed with adding and subtracting of unlike denominators with fractions. So we really try to put some of the emphasis of that into the ABE 3 program. We introduced the vocabulary and adding and subtracting and multiplying, dividing into, but then we keep developing. It's almost like a cyclical pattern and increase the skills as we move on. Adult Basic Education 4 and 5, we focus on the GED.com high impact indicators. They do CASAS correlations with their lesson plans. I'll speak to that in just a moment. We still have them do CASAS goals practice with the online practice from CASAS. There is the Aztec GED prep. They have GED readies. And for Adult Basic Education 4, we do some cross curriculum with social studies in there, but with 5 and 6, it's reading, writing, and social studies heavy at this time because we pulled out the science portion. We used to combine science, social studies, and reading and writing, and that became too much. So 2 times a year, we created a new science class. You must test into the ABE 4 level through 6. It's a standalone class. Obviously, it covers the GED science test concepts verbatim. Aztec software, we almost make it mandatory that they do the whole section, especially the first part on the scientific process, because the questioning and that will prepare them for that GED test. And then we do use the Stack-Bond science text. And if you go through that, the CASAS skills matched only to about close to 80%. So they're getting it infused in with that textbook as well. So of our first 10 participants in the class, 6 took that test and passed with a score of 157.5 or higher. And 1 student received a 144, and 3 did not take the exam. We will be offering this twice a year, so we're hoping we can keep this positive trend going with our spring semesters. Now, our biggest concern and question from instructors is, I don't understand how CASAS and GED correlate. So what we did when we were planning, you know, as most people do, you have GED.com open, then you have the Adult Basic Education Framework open, and I'm a little old school, so I have to have the paper version of the Adult Basic Education Framework, and we are creating plans to kind of combine the 2 together. So what we created, and I'm going to break away and I will show you the 2 spreadsheets. I just want to give an overview right now. We created a content curriculum spreadsheet for reading and writing and math. That way, when the teachers are planning, they can open up, look at that spreadsheet and literally cut and paste the skills into their lesson plan. And they can understand where the skills overlap. We also have instructors each semester keep track of the students' individual CASAS skills. When they take their tests during intake and assessment, we reorganize them into their classes and we put their names into a spreadsheet, and we only record if they scored a 75% or lower. Then the teachers can kind of see a pattern that's going to occur. Wow, a pretty good group of them really need to work on main idea and supporting detail. Or we really need to focus on function notation, let's say. So the instructors can emphasize the instruction, maybe do a little more planning, a little more practice, have a little more office hours, and give them an exit ticket. And we ask them to record that score of the exit ticket with a simple P, F, or I for pass, fail, or incomplete. They keep track of this all throughout the semester on that particular spreadsheet, and they also record it on the student profile sheets. I will give examples of those in just a minute. So here's a short snip of the reading and writing curriculum. So up here, all the skills have been recorded from GED.com for reporting category 2. And then down below, we put the CASAS skills that correlate to the GED.com skills. So the teachers can come in here and like, wow, I'm teaching reading 4.8 author's point of view. Then they look up with GED skills and, oh, well, I'm also will be covering this and this within the lesson, and they can cut and paste into their lesson plans. This is an example of a math correlation, reporting category 3, the algebraic problem solving for GED on the left, and the CASAS math skills on the right. So if they knew, wow, we do need to use notational conventions, parentheses, and various ways to show multiplication, they can come over here and also, well, while I'm teaching that, I will also be teaching add, subtract, multiply, and divide in linear expressions with rational coefficients. So again, instead of opening the 2, yes, we still encourage them to go to the 2 websites to look for more explanation, but they have the content right here for them. Now, the individual CASAS spreadsheets at the beginning of the semester, we have an advisor who helps us out and to create the spreadsheets. After the test, Beth Johnson and I will sort. We play a big sorting game and we put the students into their individual classes. We take those student profile sheets that we print out from Topps Pro and we put them into their classes. The students' names and the tests get put on the spreadsheet. It allows the instructors to emphasize the instruction on the weakest or lowest skills, and then they record on the student spreadsheet and the individual skills profile sheets. I will show, this is just a snippet of the individual spreadsheets. That one is for math. That is for reading. And then when they are recording on the spreadsheets, we also ask the instructors to write directly on the student performance sheet or the individual skills profile if they focused on reading or math competencies or reading or math tasks, when they gave that exit ticket, that pass, fail, or incomplete, and the date. And these sheets follow the students to their next class. So the teachers, in essence, have almost like a base report card to see where their students have been participating. I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment. I'm going to screen share again. And I'm going to show you. So this is one of the spreadsheets we will make available for everyone. This is the student individual. This is a blank form. So we reload the student names every semester, the test, the date, and the scores. And they only put where they scored 75% or lower. And then the instructors can look down and see which skills they need to focus on. The titles are up here. And again, we spelled out exactly what the CASAS definitions and descriptions are down here, so they don't have to keep going back to CASAS.com or to go back to the ABE framework. Here is an example of what we did for the reading and writing for the content spreadsheets. So this is where the curriculum is for GED.com up top. And here's the CASAS down bottom. So if they're focusing on author's point of view, they can cut and paste that into the lesson plan, and then they come right up here and they can cut and paste the other plot and conflict, author's point of view to determine a text. So they are covering both sets of skills. So as they go through with reading category 2, 3, and then what we did for the reading and writing in the end, because remember, we pulled the science out. We also put the GED.com, the GED skills for the social studies portion of the test, because they may be teaching principles of constitutional democracy, but then they might come back to RLA and they're working on explain and delineating and evaluate truthfulness and validity. So they might be looking at articles in history, but applying their reading and writing skills. So a cross-curriculum approach. So all instructors have access to this spreadsheet as well, and we will make that available for you all. Same thing for math. Here's the content for math up top, GED and CASAS. And it goes through all the levels. So instructors will have access to that. Okay. So let me scroll down and catch up. Now, what does it look like? So we do ask our instructors to put that pass, fail, and incomplete and the date on this individual skills profile and the student performance that follows the student from class to class. But what does it look like on the spreadsheets for the instructors? So however the instructors want to record when they give that exit ticket and focus on that lesson, we're fine. This stays on Teams. So Beth, Ron, and I can go in and out and check on the students' progress throughout the semester. This is what one instructor decided to do.
Excuse me, Jessie, we're still seeing we're not seeing the presentation.
I'm sorry, it's in a full, okay, I'm gonna stop share and bring it back up then again. Pardon me, thank you for letting me know. Now we'll go back. Do you see the slideshow saying next 4 slides, CASAS?
No.
No,
No, okay,
there we go.
There you go.
okay. It was saying stop share on my left screen, so I was there, I apologize. Okay, so this particular instructor gave a Kahoot to go over figurative language, and they put the percentages there. They don't have to be that detailed, pass, fail, incomplete. And this particular instructor chose to put NTI, not turned in, just to make it more specific. This instructor chose to rewrite the students' names down below. And she put every time she went over that lesson, and then if they passed, failed, or incomplete under the reading 2.3 category, reading 2.7, so on and so forth. All are acceptable. This is another example. They did a side-by-side approach with pass, fail, or incomplete, and they chose to put the date at the top. And here's one more. We're just increasing the columns and changing the colors, putting the type of drill or exit ticket, some are very specific what type of exit ticket they gave. And I don't want people to get hung up on the exit ticket. It can be whatever the teacher designs. It can be a few problems from one of the workbooks. Some create a Kahoot, some create an online virtual quiz or a mini presentation. Whatever that looks like for the instructor, it's just when they feel comfortable that they've covered the material well enough in which they think the students have a grasp on it and will be able to demonstrate mastery, okay? Now, so those we collect at the end of the semester, they're on teams, they get filled out during the semester. We do also provide lesson plans for our instructors for the 9-week session. It gives them an overview of what needs to be covered, again, following the ABE framework, and for ABE 2 and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6, still following those CASAS goals and parts of the ABE framework, but now starting to increase the GED.com. Some PowerPoints are included, and if teachers make a PowerPoint for a week or a specific one, we do share. I'm like, great, do you have a great PowerPoint to teach X, Y, or Z? And then we do share. We do have instructors create CASAS focused lesson plans and to include the digital literacy framework elements. And again, everything is shared with instructors. I'm going to try to go to Teams and give you an example. Do you see my Teams screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So this is an example of our instructors Teams tile. Every teacher gets their individual tile. Over in the channels, we put Aztec software information, CASAS and GED.com, and the digital literacy framework information. So instructors have that ready to go. Again, they don't have to start searching on the internet. We put the links and we put the documents right there for them. Now, in their files from the MD Labor Framework, we include the MD Labor lesson plans that were provided in the framework, and then the additional instructor lesson plans when we have them hand them in. So the teachers are having a pool of plans to draw from, in addition to 9 weeks of lesson plans. So I'm just going to show an example of week 1. Now we upload different worksheets. Students might not have all the hard copies of these, but as you can see, we have many worksheets and PDF files that instructors have access to present, either remediate or enrich their students within that specific area. They each have a lesson plan that will cover for 2 days. Within the lesson plan, CASAS skills, GED correlations, and digital literacy framework. We have an overview of what's going to be taught for the week. Videos that may be embedded. No, they don't show all. It's to kind of pick and choose where your students are. And then some of the other materials and books that will be used. And then the instructors then will create PowerPoints to teach from. Now this is a ABE 3 math class, so they will introduce it, kind of give a drill, show the objectives, talk about Microsoft Teams and working in those digital literacy framework elements, netiquette using the chat bar. And then here we go. We start with the content. Again, video is right there to share. Vocabulary. If a teacher included a Kahoot, it's there. Place value in decimals, Khan Academy, books, and so on. Now, a lot of the math teachers will start teaching with this, and many of them either use the Microsoft Teams whiteboard, obviously, to practice problems. Whiteboard FI, the free version, so students have practice and they can see the practice on the screens. And one of our public school teachers, he uses the free version of Push Kick, which is very similar to Whiteboard FI, in which he can see individual screens and student participation. So engagement is real and live and on time. There's no, oh, I can't do this, because he can see you on the screen. Okay. And again, each instructor has their own tile for their own class every semester. Okay, am I showing the PowerPoint again?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Okay, so how does this look with a measurable skills gains? So here we are in FY20 to FY21. Now our focus was the adult basic education 3 and 4, because that is where our highest population is. I'm sorry, I went to presentation mode and it switched. Okay, so in FY20, we were at 22.3%, and the state would have liked to have us more at 41%. And for ABE4, we were at 19.2, and which we were to reach a 34%. Now, with, again, takes a while, all these implementation of the new things that we were doing, from FY20 to 21, and like everybody else, we had that whole semester where we were struggling with getting tech to our students, but we were still able, for adult basic education 3, a 37.5% up to 38%. In ABE4, we exceeded 32.14 with the state projection to complete at 30%. So it's showing a significant mark with the majority of our student population. And Rhonda.
As you read the quote by Brendan Burchard, our secret power in adult literacy is to believe in our students, even when they don't believe in themselves. As we believe in them, they start to believe in themselves. As they increase in their belief of themselves, their success increases. As their success increases, our success increases. Yes, our success may be measured by increased MSGs, post-secondary education, or workforce placement on paper, but it is truly measured in future lives being changed. Our students are why we do what we do, and if we focus on that, all of our programs can't help but be successful.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And we can start going to the chat now and see the questions.
I have been monitoring it and I don't see any questions so far.
Okay. And again, we will make, I'm a believer in sharing and like making content portals. So you'll have all 4 spreadsheets posted. You'll have the rubric that Beth designed, and I'll even will make available the ABE framework guide to that kind of guides in on the specific areas.
So we do have one question. Do we use TABE? We do not use TABE, we use CASAS.
But you could implement the ideas that Jessie presented for CASAS with your TABE, all the information that TABE provides for you as well.
Are there any other questions? One was, in terms of vision, do you show students early on what the GED test looks like?
Oh,
Sorry. Go ahead, Jessie.
yeah, sorry. We use the booklet that came from GED.com. We go over the time it takes for each test. We go over, please do not schedule all 4 tests at the same time. That we encourage them to do one at a time. We go over how Aztec is, it mirrors the questions and the questioning style of the GED exam. So they have different facets of it throughout. And also Aaron, our Pearson View rep, comes in and speaks to them about that as well, Rhonda, and I know you do even more.
Yeah, the students in addition also receive at our higher level classes, GED Ready practice test as part of the process of learning. So they will actually get to see the snapshot of what the actual exam looks like just prior to our mid-semester conferences.
I'll field the question, how do you begin the process of creating teacher lesson plans? Well, in the beginning, it was me. And it was many sleepless nights because really just started attacking and correlating everything to that ABE framework. And we did get some subject matter experts, meaning some of our instructors, and they were able to help us design, like Denise McNews helped design the science. We have another instructor. We did also rewrite the GED, reading and writing. So when we pull the science out, we had to restructure that. We had another instructor, Courtney Glock. So I did get help from some instructors along the way, and it was kind of a team effort. We put it on Teams, and we would start going through, and we made a another spreadsheet, but we mapped out the skills according to the adult basic education level and about what are we going to cover over these 9 weeks. And it's always kind of a puzzle. We were always kind of recreating, like, no, this didn't work this semester. So we did some shifting, of course.
The other question is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna, for online classes, do we require students to show their face? We ask the students whenever they log on, most teachers ask that the students show their face to say hi at the beginning of class. Unfortunately, we haven't felt like that we can mandate that they show their faces, but part of the pre-orientation is that they have to be active participants. You know, I go through and tell them, if you're online, you can't just log in, make your screen blank and think you can sit back and never participate. And the same with even our face-to-face classes. It is really emphasized that they must be active participants, because if you're not actively involved in your learning, you're not going to learn to the fullest extent that you can. So they really go in understanding that they're going to be required to answer questions. They're going to be required to do group work. They're going to be required to show their work and what they're working on. So even if they're not showing their face on the camera, it doesn't mean that they're not actively participating. So we do have that as a requirement that they must be actively participating.
It comes out in the rubrics and when we have our conferences mid-semester as far as participation. And that's something that we really cover in the orientation about netiquette. Yes, we don't want to see all the background and the eating of dinners and whatnot. So, I mean, they're all adults in our program. They use discretion. However, if there is a student that's just kind of checking a box saying, yes, I'm doing this, it is going to come forward in our mid-semester conference with that student. Next question is, how many ABE instructors do we have and how long did this take from creation to implementation?
So at any given semester, per semester, let's say we have 10 adult basic education instructors. We do have English as a second language as well. Beth and Rhonda, we started implementing a lot of the student, what you do, pretty early on, about a year and a half ago, would you
Yeah.
say? About
Yeah.
a year and a half. And then it took a while, obviously, to get the curriculum going and doing the research. So we've been slowly working the curriculum over the year. Like when we were working the adult basic education 3 math, I had about 3 weeks done and the instructor worked with me. I'm like, okay, I'm just letting you know, we'll try to get you a week or 2 lesson plans in ahead, but we kind of worked together through that. And it's still in a progress with going to redesign the adult basic education for reading and writing. But we had, 5 or 6 classes right now that we have been restructuring. So I would say a year and a half.
Yeah.
COVID really kind of accelerated a lot of what we've implemented over the
Yeah.
past 18 months.
Do the teachers receive the information of each student's CASAS report to see their students' achievement? Yes, they do. Every teacher receives that report
Every semester.
every semester.
And it's on their student profile sheets and then on that spreadsheet. So they have the hard copy that they will pick up, and then they have the spreadsheet so they can see the class as a whole.
I see Ellen has posted the survey, and I know she's coming back on. If we did not get to your questions, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information will be available on the PowerPoint. Ellen?